daughter nuts. And it's very successful. And, I started out with everything from, yes, hold your ears, kids. That's right. It drives my daughter nuts. I'm yelling at the pig. So I have some wood just laying around and I keep on playing with it. And I found a couple of YouTube videos that I've been looking. Sorry about that. I don't want to talk about her. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos and I'm appreciative to Craft Supply because they had a great one by Mike, this last one, and that really helped me out a lot. And Wood Journal, and I have some nice hard rock maple that I've done it with. And loud enough, so fun to make for the grandkids, drive your daughter nuts. Next door neighbor's grandson was over, and so now little James was running around driving grandma and grandpa nuts. But on my spare time, I go into the man cave and take a piece of scrap wood and just try to make something. Next.
Yeah, my name is Paul Sullivan, and I'm really kind of wacky. This is kind of what I do. And this, when you can't turn balls and you can't turn anything else, but you're kind of an engineer, this is what you do. So this one here is, it's called an icosahedron, and it's made up out of 20 equilateral triangles. Just cut them out, glue them together. The only thing that I really added to it is I made the triangles, started with segmented rings. And the way that the coloration is kind of tricky, So I made it look like it's really pentagons, but it's actually started out with equilateral triangles. And the other one sitting down there is similar in nature, but I've done it using pentagons. So anyway, if anybody wants to know how to do this, I live up in Riverton. You can stop by any week. So that's about how long it'll take me to show you how to do it.
I'm Barry Lunt. I just have a bench top lathe, so I do small stuff, simple stuff. I have a peach tree that died, left a lot of wormholes, really makes it kind of pretty. So just making some bud vases out of that peach wood, and I think it turns out pretty nice. I just give them away as gifts.
My name's Alvin Stratton. I've been turning for about 50 years now. The reaction I've had from a couple of people tonight is that it looks weird. And yes, it does, because it is actually, it came from a demo that I did on Celtic knots, and it's supposed to be a Celtic knot. But in between the initial demo and actually finishing it, I messed up the angles, the rotational angle. And so I think the next one I will do will be exactly like this, because I kind of like the way it turned out as being more haphazard. But this sat in my shop unfinished for about 2 years. And then for the Instagram exchange last year at AAW, I gave this to Pat Kogal, the maple part with the rings. And he went ahead and said, well, let's make this into a sphere. So he put the walnut top and bottom and turned it into a sphere. So it's a collaborative effort.
I'm Carl Hansen. This is made from segmented rings, hard maple, and then it's divided. It starts at the center. I think this one is 96 divisions. And then on the outside, it goes to 288 divisions. And then the squares, the pattern is painted with India ink. So it helps if you're a little bit crazy to do this stuff.
I'm Derek Bladder, and I don't have much of a story behind it, but this is just a vase of new form that I hadn't done before. So this is mine.
I have a couple of things here. Wood that I collected or got at the wood raffle, but a piece of koa. I had some void in it that I filled in kind of my first try of really trying to fill that, and that turned out pretty nice, I thought. Then I had a piece of box elder burl that I wanted to figure out something to do. So not entirely happy, but it turned out kind of interesting.
Anybody else want to?
All right, thanks everybody for that. Some amazing things back there, just mind blowing, especially when you turn simple stuff like me. Tonight's demo, we've got Joe Ford that's offered to do a demo on these really cool glass jars. Wooden jars with glass lids. And this is great. Joe brought in some extras here. We're going to send a link out. I'll get that from Dennis and send it to everybody in the email, the link where you can buy these jars. They're on Amazon. And Joe mentioned he has a few extras that he's willing to sell tonight, and then he'll replace his stock with whatever gets sold tonight. But we will send the links out to those too if you want to get those there. So without further ado, Joe, we'll turn the shop floor over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I will introduce my wife. She came to make sure I didn't say anything stupid, I guess. I was watching a video today about, it was a video that I guess the Air Force had released about some Air Force pilots that had taken a picture of a UFO. Then if you have a UFO and then you identify it as a UFO, now it's only an FO. Then if it lands, it's just an O. So I got this idea, and I'm sure other people have had this idea too. You can pass these around if you want. To do these little jars, I like to do useful things. I've been turning for a long time, 40 years maybe, but I really like doing useful things. And so I kind of got this idea and started by going down to the DI and buying old candle jars. And I just bought, and eventually they ran out at the DI. So I found a place on Amazon to get these. So you just take throw the bottom away, and you're just going to use the top. I'll show you how to do it. It's pretty easy. So there's a couple of things to consider. You can turn it. Well, this one's burl, so it doesn't matter. So you can take that one. You can turn it cross. Well, that one's burl too, so that doesn't matter. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this one's turned cross grain. There. You see it? So then you get the typical, what you'd get from a cross grain. Or if you turn it end grain, then you kind of get a whole different effect. So this one's cedar or juniper. I guess it's Utah juniper. So you can do it either way. If you turn one end grain, make sure that it's got some good curves on it, or you'll just get straight lines, right? You want to get the curves so you can show off the rings of the wood, if that makes any sense. So either way works good. I haven't done any glue ups yet, but it would be fun to do some glue ups. In fact, I was going to try a Celtic knot. So whoever was showing the Celtic knot, you can show me how to do that. I was going to try one of those. That would be fun. You can just and then I like to let me see that one back again. So one thing I like to do is to make ones that kind of go together in pairs. So this one came from the same piece of wood. So it's just a piece of wood like that. And so I just start with this and then just part it in half and make two, and then they kind of match. Another way that I've done make a match is I made a set that kind of had this curve this way, and then the match one had the concave. One was concave and one was convex, so that when they sat next to each other, and I should have. Your sister has those, doesn't she? I think, yeah. Anyway, I like to do ones that kind of match, whether it's with the wood There you go. Either to or maybe the shapes or something like that, and maybe make it like the two-seater ones. Came from the same wood. They're slightly different shape, but still kind of go together as a set. And then another thing is one was passed around that's got some dye on it, and here's another one with dye, so that's kind of fun. When you do the dye though, at any kind of finish, you want to leave if you're actually going to use it, you want to leave the inside unfinished, right? Because you don't want the finish on whatever you're going to store inside. So just finish the outside. And I brought some dye. If you want, we can dye one. I can show you how to do the dye. So anyway, so like here's an example of a piece. I assume everybody knows how to get a square piece into a round piece, so I didn't worry about that, right? And if we're gonna, yeah, there you go, a chainsaw. So if we're doing the maybe with dye, I'll start with this piece because the dye is not really going to take on walnut, and I'll just do a small one because they're quick and easy. So simple. You need a parting tool, and then whatever tool you use. If you like a skew, for me, I'll just use the bow gouge. And my parting tool is an old cutting knife that I ground down. And then on these small ones, I use my skew to hold the small ones. Oh, I should have brought a drill. That would have been handy too. I wonder if they got a bit around here. Does anybody know if there's a? Oh well, I forgot my drill bit. I'll use this tiny ones because my hollowing tools, when you get the little small hole, the hollowing tool doesn't go in these small ones. On the bigger ones, that works fine, but on the larger one, once I get it drilled out, I'll just use the tip of the skew. So, huh? I don't have one. Okay, so these things are pretty simple. Is that on there? Okay, so you just pinch on the back, you just pinch this, and that comes apart. Of course, this is the part you care about. And then you got to pull this little thing off right here that holds the back. Don't lose it. They're not magnetic. So the first one I lost, I was going with my magnet through all my sawdust, and I never could pick it up. They're stainless. And then you got that piece, and this just goes in the garbage, but not quite yet because you do need it, or it's really handy because where we want to start is with the size, the diameter at the top, and what you want to get is the same diameter as the widest part of the glass. So that width, and I don't even use when I'm doing this. I don't use calipers. I just go down and I get it to match. It doesn't have to be really exact. When we kind of get set up on this lathe, good grief. Yeah. Oh yeah, awesome. Thank you. Try that. Let's see. Oh, look at that. It goes around and around. So we start a little slow here. So just kind of your normal cuts that you use, whatever you use. If you want to use a skew, you know, comfortable with, the way you want to get this end. I usually start with the end here. Just work it down. Kind of looking at this, and I'm getting this, and I just hold it up here like this. I kind of get that shape. I'm gonna flush off the top here a little bit. So take a little more off. Again, you can use calipers and all kinds of fancy stuff if you wanted, but it's a pretty simple project. Something that's going to be used, I think. So we're getting pretty close. You see that in the camera, okay? It's just a little crowd. So just kind of keep sneaking up on it, almost like making a jam truck. I think we got it. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind on the shape is you need a little bit of neck on the top. Okay, so there we got that one. That's good. It's just a little bit tiny bit proud, so that gives us some room to adjust it a little if we need to and sand a little off. So, can I get one that you're passing around? I want to show you something on the neck that you have to keep in mind. Oh, yeah, fine. Okay. So when you close this lid, it just locks down with some tension, right? Well, you have to leave. Huh? Oh, there we go. Okay. It locks down with tension. And so you can't start your shape too high or it won't lock. It'll hit this lever will hit the wood. So you have to have a little, and you'll see some of them, some of the ones that I passed around are really wide, but there's a piece on the top where it stays straight, the neck. And that's just so that you've got so if you're going to make a shape that's going to bulge out at the bottom, you have to leave enough room that you can get that lock. That makes sense. Just a little bit of, you can't start your shape up here. You got to start it down about 1/2 inch, 5/8, just so you got that space. Okay. So when you get the shape down or the size down, and then we can either okay, well, that's good that I'm breathing. I'm still alive. So what I'll do is just I can remember which button to push. We'll just pick a shape here. What I'm gonna do, I just do kind of a like that, and then we'll so my favorite tool is the good old bowl gouge, and I can do just about anything with the bowl gouge. I'll use the skews and the other tools, but I like the bowl gouge because I can do just about anything I want. When you come to the bottom, or if you're going to do that and come to the bottom, you got to make sure you roll your tool up. Keep the tool up and keep the flute up. You'll catch that wing, right? If you're going to do what I just did, come in like this. When you get to the bottom, roll the flute to the side so that this wing contacts this bottom in a scraping motion instead of a cut. So I'm not worrying too much about direction or anything on this because it was kind of a broken piece, and so not really a grain to care about. And that's a reasonable shape to sort of start with. right there. The next thing we gotta have is you've got to put the, you gotta cut a little ring to put this around. Yeah. Yeah, here. That should be enough. And when you put it on, you try it and keep taking it down if you need to take it down some more, right? So I have a really scientific method to figure out where to put this. And that is you hold it up here, kind of line it up with your pencil, and then make a little mark right there. See how scientific that is. So what I really care about is kind of that top mark. So something about there. And then my fancy parting tool. What I'm going to do is just start cutting a groove in here. And I have a different parting tool, one that has kind of a little flute on the bottom. Has anybody used that kind? It has a little tiny flute down this side, so you know what I'm talking about. But I like this one for this job because it's flat, and then it leaves the bottom of the groove flat. And it doesn't really matter because when you put the metal on, it hides all of it anyway. So then you just do a little bit of that, and put this on, and we still got a ways to go. So you just kind of, so again, it's a lot like making a jam chuck. You just kind of keep sneaking up on it until you get it where you want it. You don't want to go too far because you want a nice tight fit. When you put this little ring on it, you want it to fit really tight. So still a ways to go. I'll get used to where the buttons are on this lathe by about the time we're done. Yeah. Yeah, I took the bottle. I hold it up here with my pencil like that, and I just sort of eyeballed it. And leave it just a little, usually cut it a little deep, because then when as soon as we get this done, then we're going to fit the lid on. And if you make the groove a little deep, then you can just shave a little off the top until it seals down right. Then you can throw the glass away. You can't throw the glass away yet. So like I say, you just kind of keep working on this, and you can see what's that? I could do that, yeah. So you can see we're kind of getting close. And that's your size. You just put it on there, and as soon as that ring goes across there, so that's what we're working towards, is that. And I've got this a little big. We're gonna have to take a little off of that. Where that comes around. Okay, we're getting close, and I know my fingers are really in the way there, but you can hopefully you can get the idea of what's going on there. And then there's kind of a little bit of an issue that you kind of got to keep in mind when you're doing this, and that's that you have to cut this groove in deep enough that this will work. Thank you. Okay. Almost. Just a tiny bit more. So you have to cut this groove in deep enough that you can get this on. And at the same time, you have to hollow it out enough that this little flared out flange fits in it. And so you can tell that there's going to be a really narrow spot from the bottom of that groove to the inside. So that's a little bit of a trick there. And I've come up with one idea that I do. Okay, so that ought to take care of that. Probably get this on here now. Might need one more. Yeah, I was pretty careful on that. But like I say, if you get this too deep, then you start over. Not quite. One more little cut. Yep, then we'll have it. Okay. Okay. So we got that. I can tell it's too the diameter of the base is too big because this is too deep, I can tell. These have a little gasket on the inside of it, and then I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but this has a little rim in there where the gasket fits around. So what you have to do is you got to hollow it out enough that the glass will go in and the flange will hit the top, and that when we lock it down, it'll seal without forking to the side, but not so hollow that you get it really super thin right here. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm going to take just a little more off here. I can see that's wider than I want. And then we'll see if we can hollow this out a little bit. Just with the so just if you make poles, which I assume everybody does, just gonna cut a little bowl here. And then what we're looking for is, again, that, pull this off, has got to be big enough to go in there. It isn't quite yet. So we're going to have to keep working it out. So a couple of things I've done to help mitigate this problem where we're going to get a thin piece right here. And that is, I don't go straight in here. I'll go in a little bit of an angle. And that gains me just a little bit of thickness right here around the bottom of the groove. Then another thing I do, and I didn't bring it with me because it's so stinky in here, but I'll take the really thin CA once I get it done. Just put the little tip down in the bottom of the groove and just soak it. Just let it soak it. The capillary action will pull it up in here and pull it down through. And I think that gives it a little extra strength as well. So I told you I'll use this skew to hollow out because the hollowing tool, and you notice I'm not going in straight. I'm just going in, and there's probably a better way to do this, but this works for me. So by going in this way just a little bit, you can gain just a tiny bit of thickness that I didn't have otherwise. So the glass part starting to fit in there. As soon as the glass is in, then you have to make it just a little bit bigger, so that when you pull it down, it'll seal down. So we're going to make it just a tiny bit bigger. So now it's going in. Got a fit there. Gonna just use a little scraping cut here to just smooth that off on the top where I nicked it, or it rode back on me. And what I like to do is when I put the CA on it, get it almost where you want it and then soak it up with the CA, because you know sometimes they'll kind of bubble up and stuff, and then take just a little tiny thin bit off. What I'm mainly trying to do is get some CA down at the bottom to, again, gain some strength there. So let's see if it comes together. Oh, that goes on there. This goes over the top. This goes around. There's just a rim in the glass that sits on. That goes there. Just pinch it. Apologize that my fingers are in the way here, but there we go. And what we're gonna do is pull it down. And I can see that I've got it just about right. Got enough that it's sealed down tight. I'm going to shorten the distance between here and here just a little bit, because you can see in the picture, it's see how it's pulling this wire down away from the glass. So I'm going to want to take just a little bit out of here to relieve some of that tension, so that when it's locked, it's more here instead of there. You see that much detail on there? Yeah, so we're going to do that. So you get really good at taking this apart, because you have to do it about 15 times by the time you're finished. So do that. Again, I think I'm just going to use I'll just use the skew. And in this case, so a little bit of a scrape on it. And then put it back together again. I haven't been able to find the components. I found the seal, but I couldn't find the rings. Well, I looked for the lids too. I like the glass lids, and they're not expensive. The bigger bottle and the middle sized bottle are about $5 a piece, and the small ones are about $2.50. Yeah. Okay. I bought the seals before, because some of the ones I got at the DI, the seals, the rubber was hard, and so I bought the seals. So that's a little better when I pull it down and not really having to pull it very hard. It's kind of locking. Still got it. I know. The jar with a lid. I don't know. When I started, they were candles. They were jars that candles came in, and then for some reason people would clean them out and collect them and send them to the DI. I sent where did it go? Oh, thank you. I sent the link around of these that I bought. There's a whole bunch of them. These were the best price ones I could find. So I want to take just a tiny bit more off of that. Was feeling pretty good, but still a little tight. So we'll take just a little more off. Okay. Finish up, get our shape. little bit different of a lathe for me. So yeah, I don't mind this shape right here. So I'll just stay with this. And again, it's kind of like most things. It's just there's not a right or a wrong, whatever you feel like. And on the bottom, a lot of times I'll just use the wing to scrape in a scrape just because it's easy to get in there. And you'll notice that I'm leaving just a little bit of wood right here. So I always like to do that because when I'm finished, I have a built-in jam chuck right here. So I always like to make sure I leave about an inch. So when we get done, we'll just flip that around and jam chuck it so we can do the bottom. Okay. Now we're going to see if we can drill a little bit. We're done with that. It's garbage at this point. There's got to be a knockout bar somewhere. Huh? Oh, Ron got it. That should work. This. I guess you can just use about any bit you want. I've got a couple of Forstner bits for doing the bottom of these, and then I got the little diamond point in the center. And I grind the diamond point way, way down, so it's just a little tiny diamond point, so I don't have that left in the bottom. I see a few people shaking their head. Know what I mean? I just hate having to clean the bottom out. So that thing's weird. So for me to find the bottom, just go like that. I'm kind of about sort of getting it done as opposed to so I think that should do us. Oh, you got it all the way back, so thank you. Yeah, do that. Say this is I'm used to a Powermatic, so little oh, somebody warned me about leaning against that red bar. There I did it. Still a little high. See if we can just get in here and just chug a little of this wood out of here. Again, still going that way just a little bit until I get past here, and then I'll want to turn back a little bit. So I'm past there, so now you can't do much, just big tool in that little space. And you're working on these little ones. Somebody taught me a good trick and I didn't bring it, but you're always trying to get the stuff out of the bottom. Drinking straw. Get a little, huh? Yeah, but if you don't have an air gun right there, just a little drinking straw right there in your pocket, and you just put the long end in your mouth, and then the kind of pan, you just put it in there and you just poof like that, and it goes out, and you don't get any in your mouth or your nose. So that's a pretty good trick. And it's cheaper than an air gun too, by the way. Not as noisy as a compressor. So the way I'll hollow with this is just using that point to catch an edge. Oh, I've leaned against that red bar again. Just use that point. I've taken too big of a bite there, so I picked up the end grain and started to bounce. Just feeling for the bottom. Kind of feel my way along the bottom. Probably a bit of an unorthodox way to hollow. Didn't say Mike is coming and do a demo, so I probably won't. Glad he's not here to sit me down. So it's still, and because of the bit, I've got the big chunk in the bottom, but I think I left myself plenty of room that I can still take some out of the bottom and get it smooth. On the bigger ones, I'll round the bottom. On the smaller ones, I come down and then square them off just because it's easier. I'm going to take a little more out of the side here. So when you're hollowing on these little ones with this, what you do is just, it's a lot like picking up the edge on the bowl on the outside, right? Just come back a little bit. Turn the tip in a little bit more aggressive till it catches an edge. Start to go forward and then reach around. So come back just a little bit, get aggressive with it till it catches, till it starts to build up a little end grain and catches right there. You heard it catch, and then so when I found the bottom now, I'm just kind of going back and forth along the bottom. Again, a little bit unorthodox way to hollow, but it works and it's pretty safe. I've never had any catches or problems doing this. You get too far to the other side, it'll just bounce a little, and that's just how you feel it, find the other side. That's getting pretty good now. Still take a little more out of the bottom and a little bit more out of the side. And you could put a caliper on it and on the bigger ones, I usually do put a caliper in and kind of check with my wall thickness and get it somewhat the same. Get pretty good here now. Stand to go a little deeper. So how many have hollowed? So you just kind of get the idea. You do it by feel, right? And so that's all I'm doing is just feeling the bottom. It's the bigger ones are easier because you can use a hollowing tool. I use a hollowing tool, yeah, a bent hollowing tool, and I've got a little tiny one, but those little ones, they're so there's such a small amount of metal on them that they just chatter if you get more than a half-inch deep. And like, I haven't found it very useful. Then what I like to do is the same way when I don't know, maybe you guys do it or not, but when I'm doing a bowl, for example, I like to, hog a lot of wood out and do it kind of rough and then sort of work down when I'm getting close to where I want to be, work down to a finer and finer cut until you kind of get that last pass. And that's what I'm doing here as well. If I reach in here, it's not quite smooth. There's a little ridge in there, but I've got most of the wood out now and the wall thickness is pretty good. The stand to be a little deeper, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. So then what I'm going to do now is just take it because it's kind of dangerous to sand inside of these little ones, finger twisted off. So I don't want to sand in too much. So now what I'm going to do is just sort of take a couple of really light passes and see if I can get that little ridge out of there. And again, it's all about feel. So you just kind of going in there and catch a little tiny edge with that tip. There, I got it. I can feel it. Yeah, the ridge is gone. Pretty smooth. Hit that with just a little bit of sandpaper and it'll be fine for the inside of a jar that's going to hold some oregano or something. Still got a little nipple there on the bottom. I can see if I can get that off of there. That's one of the challenges of hollowing with this is getting that bottom bit. All right. Call that good. A little bit. Oh, yeah, I can feel it. I got it going a little bit now. All right, so when I sand the inside, because I do like to sand it a little bit, just turn the speed way down. Just give me a little bit of an assist. Just kind of smooth it off. I'm not really going for a finish in there. Just smooth it off so there's no slivers, right? Keeping it safe. Like I said, sticking my finger in these things scares me to death. That's why I keep it really slow. And yeah. 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 And Vladimir Schwartzman, he's got I think a lot of you know him. He's got some he was an orthopedic surgeon, some kind of special clamp or something that they used in surgery. He uses that work, he says works pretty good. I don't know where to get one. So do they? Okay. A what? Yeah. Yeah. I've made a couple where I've got a dowel and I used contact cement and cemented on a little piece of foam. And then on top of that, a piece of the hook and loop. And I just put a thing, but I don't know. Seems to this works pretty good. Because again, I'm not going for a finish in there. I just don't want it to be getting slivers when you reach in there. And I've just about got it. And usually I'm using 120 here. That's usually about where I'll stick a piece 240 in there. But that's really all I'm going for, is just that. And then it doesn't hurt to, you don't want any sharp corners. Again, it's something that's going to be used in the kitchen and you're going to reach in it and have your fingers in there. So I'll usually just knock off the sharp corner so it's a little bit smooth right there. Then on this, you don't really need to, because again, the wire's going to be in there and hides it. But usually what I'll do is just kind of roll the sandpaper like that and reach down in there, kind of clean it up a little bit. And then as you force the sandpaper in, kind of flares that out a little bit and gets rid of a sharp corner there as well. So they're sanding. Everybody knows how to sand, right? Yeah, and that way is really boring. I think I brought a. Oh, here it's right here. We'll get it sanded up real quick, and then somebody can take it home. So any questions or comments while I'm doing this exciting part? No. Yeah. 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 Oh. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've had pretty good luck with mine just by not putting any finish on the inside. Yeah. Just a little sandpaper. And you know, it's interesting. If you go on like the Facebook groups, there's always somebody asking, what's the best food grade finish for your bowls? And every once in a while I'll get in there and comment 600 grit sandpaper. That's the best food grade finish, 600 grit sandpaper. I'll come back to, I really like to make things that get used. So I like to finish them. And I do some, when we pass them out, I do some, you know, with some lacquer on them and dye and stuff. But most of my stuff is not. I just want to sand it, put a little bit of oil on it. To me, that's the right finish. The reason is because if somebody's using it and this gets bumped or chopped or chipped, the person who has it can't repair it. They can't fix it. It has a chip in it now forever. But if this one gets banged against the counter or it starts to dry out, there's little olive oil in everybody's kitchen. Little olive oil in everybody's kitchen and little paper towel and rub a little olive oil on it. It's brand new. So to me, that's the best food grade finish. 600 grit sandpaper and little oil. And I don't think it matters much what kind of oil. I use Mike Mahoney's oil a little bit. Coconut oil is actually pretty good, especially if you've got somebody who has a possible food allergy. Because I don't think people, Yeah. Yes. Yeah, coconut oil doesn't ferment, and I think nobody is allergic to it. So that one works really good. Yeah. Yeah, because it's been processed. Yep. But the ones we have in our kitchen, well, the bowls, she makes bread all the time, so they're always getting some oil from the bread. They're good. And then this kind of stuff, if they start to look dry, we just put a little olive oil on them because again, they don't have time to go rancid or rotten because we use it. It's just in the kitchen. Okay, what time am I supposed to end? What time am I supposed to end? 8:30. So, I brought some dye. You want me to? How many have dyed before? Look, sorry, that was yeah. Thank you. This done these multicolored dyes. Do you want me to do the dyeing? Okay. So for fall colors, you want black, red, and yellow. Okay, and you want dye, not stain or paint. It needs to be dye because you want the grain to come through, right? We got this pretty piece of wood. It's got some nice grain in it. You want to be able to see the grain. Yes, yeah, and it's just the Artisan brand. I got it here. And you're going to sand it down to, wherever you sand to, kind of. I sand this down to 320, and that's pretty good for here. Most important thing is a pair of gloves. Makes a mess. You want to start with your dark colors first. So you just need a little piece of cotton. This is some kind of flannel sheet or something. I don't know, a t-shirt. An old t-shirt works really good for this. What you want to do is start with your dark color first. You don't necessarily have to put it on thick or even either. It can kind of be rough. So what I'll do, and take my glasses off so I can see a little better. I'll kind of look at the wood and see what's there, because I want to work with the grain, right? I want to work with what's there. And every place where there's this chatoyance happening right here is going to sand off. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a dark on and then we're going to sand it off. And where the chatoyance is, these stripes here are going to sand at a different rate than here. So it'll keep more of the black here than it will here, right? So that's what we're going to do. So I like to look at it and kind of see where, there's some good stripes going there, a little bit, I don't know, there's kind of a little bit of a sunburst pattern going off there. So I'm going to do a little heavier, maybe of the black there than somewhere else. And you can put it on smooth and even if you want. And then just sand it back. But no, you don't want, because we're going to sand it back. What we want to do is just have a little bit of the black underneath because we want a layered effect, right? And if we look at this one right here, it's got 4 colors in it. And and that's how you get them, is just layer them up like this. So you don't want a hard line where you've got it really dark and then nothing, right? So you got to smooth it in a little bit. And then I'm going to make it just a little darker here because I want to highlight. And I know that's a little weird that I'm using the black to highlight, but that's what happens. I'll just kind of do that. Something like that. Then we're going to sand it. Go over here. Go back to here. What's that? And we're just going to sand it off. It's 320. And just use whatever grit you kind of used to, right? Wherever you sand. Some people sand down to 320 or 400 or something. I sand to 6, sometimes to 12. But so just kind of wherever you're at, right? Whatever you're using. So that looks pretty good. See, so you can see how where I had the black. When I sanded it off. Black came off here, but it didn't come off here. So now I've got a place where the other colors, the lighter colors, are going to take better. You can just look at it, and if you decide you want a little more color, you can add a little more color to it, or take a little more off. You get these cheap Harbor Freight ones, you can bang them against the chuck and then just throw them away. Okay. So, and one trick you can do is when you're doing the dyes is get a little alcohol, and once you get it on, if you want it to blend a little better or change it a little better, rather than putting more dye on, just get some alcohol, and you can kind of move it around with the alcohol after it's on the wood. So next I'm just gonna, you can see I'm just putting a little on. So this is the red. We're gonna go for a fall color here. And where I put the black, same thing. I'm gonna want to put, gonna bring the red on top of the black. There. And I've got a hard line here, so I'm gonna soften that just a little bit. Just with the rag. And again, you can soften it with just some alcohol if you get stuck. Sometime, and you see where on this side where I had the black, I've also got a lot of red. Now we're just gonna sand it again. See, I've picked up the red layer in here, but I've still got these streaks on the top where it's sanded off because you got the grains running different. They're going to sand differently. So that's looking pretty good. Then we got another little rag here. We'll do the yellow, and where we'll end is with a nice kind of golden fall color, what this is going to come up with. So usually on the final one, I go pretty on the light, whatever the light color is going to be, I'll just do it, just cover it pretty evenly. You don't have to, but that's usually what I do. Then thing just to get it so they don't have something showing up here. Do this. There's a little bit of that's going to show around the edge of the silver. And the end grain, yeah, it's all about the grain. And the prettiest ones are burls, because then you got all kinds of crazy stuff going on, right? Or if there's a knot. Any piece, what if you're gonna dye, you want to look for some chatoyance in the wood, right? That's what you want to look, because then you're going to get the real good contrast and the highlights out of it. So there we go, we're done. It's dyed, and of course, cap go. When we get done, when it really pops, is that I brought a little can of lacquer and we hit it with just a little bit of lacquer, but pop it off real quick and beautiful. And you can if you want, but I don't. It depends. I mean, I like that color. Actually, it turned out really good. and you can see, you can't really see the black is black, but you can see you can see it in there in layers. And then the red kind of brings out the orange color. And then we got a light side. So yeah, I'm not going to sand that one. I think it looks pretty good. So just part it off here real quick. With what? I usually don't. You can though. Some of them I've would dye the top, just don't go down in. Or if you do go down, don't go very far, because like the top, in this one, the top 1/8 inch isn't going to have any product in it. It's going to have this in it, this little rubber gasket. So you're okay if you spill over just a little bit. And it probably wouldn't hurt anything anyway, have it in there. But let's. But as far as doing any kind of decoration or anything on the top, you wouldn't want to. You want a nice flat surface, because it's not going to be an airtight seal, but a pretty good seal around this rubber gasket. So this one's a little short. It's great for doing that part, but a little short for doing this part. But we'll get through it. Well, see, now I'm wishing I had that longer tool, but it's just a sloppy part. It'll work. Okay, so we got to part it off, and got an instant jam chuck right there. It's already kind of marked out to about the right size. It's close to it. We'll just again, if you're going to work back into a face like this, when you get near the face, don't forget to roll your tool down, or it'll remind you. And I mean, everybody's made a jam chuck, right? This is an easy way to sneak up on it, is with that, because you can get a little finer control on it. And I always, you can see I've got it in at an angle, because we want to find that, not go too far. But also remember, when we cut this, we cut it in at an angle. So it's really, these are really hard to jam chuck, because the inside of the neck isn't straight. It's not square. You kind of have to account for that a little bit. So flat, then angle it down a little bit. Just yeah, just normal stuff. We're getting close there. Come back to pretty much square there, and then another little angle on it. Almost. See, these jam chucks are a little hard to make because that neck isn't straight, but it was on purpose. And you have to also be really careful that you don't you know, really punch it in there because you got a thin spot right there and it's gonna break. And I've broken several. Just kind of have to feel into it until you find it. Get it all the way in and be able to, of course, the jam chuck is to get it square is this shoulder against that shoulder. It's not the neck. Just take a little of that off. And because we're dealing with such a temperamental thing here with the shoulder, I didn't make the shoulder straight on purpose. And you got to be really careful about this. Oh, shoot, too much. And I didn't bring my masking tape. But yeah, we should be able to make a paper towel. A little bit of masking tape would be good too. How many times is that? Okay, because we're dealing with all of those issues that we talked about, when I jam these, I don't ever cut them with a tool. I just sand the bottom. Again, we're not no big time people here watching us, watching me. I can hide out in my shop. And so it's on there. Let me stop again. It's not really a tight jam. It's pretty good. And you can see it's running true, right? But what I do is just it's the bottom. You don't see it. So it's okay. There we did it. We made the jam chuck. It's really straightforward. We had the piece there. And again, because it's not really super tight on here, I never put a tool on it. I just do. But again, it's the bottom. Doesn't really matter, right? Yeah, let's go down to 3 real quick. And usually that should do us. Usually there's enough you want it to match, at least pretty good. So just go back to your cloths that you had. That one's dried out. A lot of times there's a little bit in them, and sometimes if there's not, I'll just dip them in alcohol a little bit to give me a little. I have to read the name on the side of the bottle because I'm colorblind. So here I am teaching you how to dye things in new colors. I'm colorblind. I guess you could just leave the bottom of this bare wood if you wanted, but just hit it with the sander a bit. When you're doing the dyeing, the one thing that you want to keep in mind is what makes it interesting and what makes it work is the sandpaper, not the dye. Because the sandpaper is what takes it off and gives you the variations that, you know, in the color. So it's the sandpaper. So don't be afraid when you're dyeing to sand. And also, you can't mess it up, because if you sand too much of the dye off, it's pretty easy to it's more back on. So, if everybody's okay with a little bit of smell. You'll see the color just pop out. Lacquer. Yeah, high gloss. Yep, there you go. You see you see the black here, just lifted the black, right? Those darker colors, as soon as you put the lacquer on, you can't see them as good. But as soon as you put the lacquer on, those darker colors will come right out, which again, don't be afraid to sand, because if you leave too much of the dark under, when you put this on, then the whole thing turns dark. So there you go. All done. We'll let it dry for a minute and put the hardware on it. It's not lost by now. Where'd that one more piece go, guys? The ring that goes around. That's the part that goes here. That's the ring that goes around here. Yeah, well, yeah. No kidding.
Well, thanks very much, Joe. I appreciate that. I encourage everybody to come up and take a look at this. Absolutely beautiful. We have a gift certificate to Craft Supplies for Joe.